Number 6. I Told Fat Cakes. Now for a title like that, you can tell that there's 2 plots in this episode that really are just there just to have this episode exist. Now, when Sam didn't do anything for about a month or something, she gets a ticket to the Fat Cake Factory in Canada. And meanwhile, Carly is just taking a bath and she stuck her toe into the faucet, which means that her date with a boy, obviously, is gonna be very problematic with her. And that's basically what this episode is. Now, this episode isn't terrible, it just feels like we need an episode centered around fat cakes for some reason, because Dan Snyder wants us to have craving with fat cakes, even though fat cakes don't exist in real life. Or maybe I'm just not doing a lot of research. But anyways, this episode all about fat cakes is kind of unique, but it just feels phoned in. Because the fact that we never get to know anything about fat cakes except that it's just an invention that Dan Snyder made for the show, it just feels very off and very completely predictable. Now, for some reason, fat cakes are completely illegal in the United States. I really don't understand why they're illegal, but they probably made that in order to have the second half of this episode have a purpose. When Sam doesn't have a driver's license or any of that to go to America, they have to do some ideas like having Sam be in a suitcase so she won't get caught at all. And then when Gibby completely takes a picture with an iCarly fan, another group of people have another case kind of similar to the one that Gibby has, and they took the wrong case. And the ending of this episode, well, I get that it's supposed to be funny, but this is really how the episode ends. Sam is completely into a different country while his friends are back in Seattle. And as for Carly in this episode, is always stuck in the bathroom with her toe stuck into the faucet, and she just tries different ways before her date comes. This episode is just weird, and not in a good way. Carly's subplot is just there because she really makes a very big mistake by putting his toe into the faucet. For how much I question on why fat cakes are illegal in the United States, I just really don't understand why they really think that Sam really needs to make sure that she really needs an ID or something. I know it's something that we need to do in order to pass to a different country, and when we go on road trips we do that, but I just don't understand how she managed to get to Canada without any of this predicament. It just feels very off and very phoned in, if you ask me. And the only thing that this episode really learns is that we should really need a passport or any of that in order to pass to a different country. Even though I'm still having issues with that when Sam doesn't have that problem when she got to Canada. And this episode really wants us to have a craving with fat cakes, even though that fat cakes don't exist in real life. Number 5. Before I continue with this list, let's get into Season 7. Now, I get that Season 6 has the amount of the Season 7 episodes, and Season 6 and iCarly only has 6 seasons because Dan Snyder says that there's only 6 seasons in iCarly. But due to the false advertisement from Nickelodeon that there's a 7th season, I decided to have 7th season being a separate thing. Why? Because guess how many episodes that involves iCarly's web show? 2. I Shock America and I Goodbye. What about these 5 episodes? They have nothing to do with the web show at all. Yes, 2 one-hour specials have some relevance to the iCarly web show. However, in the middle of the sandwich, literally nothing has anything to do with iCarly. I understand that Dan Snyder wants to entertain us and wants us to keep us occupied, but this is really not the right way to do it, and it's very disappointing. Season 7 is just very depressing that iCarly has zero ideas on what they're going to do next. And in my opinion, Season 7 is the worst season from iCarly. Not because they're really running out of ideas and the stories are just too predictable and cliched, but they're also very uninteresting and really not that funny. And trust me, Season 7 episodes are very boring and too predictable. I mean, if you just watch I Shock America and I Goodbye, you will miss nothing at all. Since they completely use every idea that they have for the show, and during its last season, they have nothing else except have more characters and do more cliches and predictable stories. I will go on and on about this, but there's only 3 episodes that I really found from Season 7 that I consider the worst. I'll just get 2 episodes that aren't going to be on the list. I Rescue Carly and I Find Spencer Friends. Those 2 episodes are just basically too dull to be featured on the list. But the 3 episodes are very bad, which leads us to our 5th entry to this list. I Get Banned. You know what this more is about? If you don't have no permission to do random stuff, then if you have them banned from your apartment, guess what? When a person has a restaurant, they completely ban you as well. Oh my god. This plot is very stupid and very unprofessional, because T-Bone doesn't learn anything on respecting Carly's apartment whatsoever. I mean, before this episode, he completely came in while Spencer and his girlfriend just doing some stuff alone, and then when T-Bone just goes to places that he isn't allowed to, it's just very unacceptable. And then when Carly completely bans him, T-Bone completely bans her from the Goofy Smoothie, which is basically the only reason why this plot exists. And when Carly has to do something for him by sleeping at his new place, Freddy's apartment, she reaches to a breaking point that T-Bone is allowed to go to her apartment anytime he wants. Ugh. This plot is just pathetic and stupid. Look, I know that this episode is just trying to show how annoying on how T-Bone has to live with Freddy's mom, but seriously, there's really no acceptable reason on why T-Bone should just go to Carly's apartment and do whatever he wants. It just feels very stupid and very forced if you ask me. This is why I really hate this episode, because it's just too forced, and the moral in this episode is just a terrible moral. It's just something I can't even tolerate because of how stupid and lazy it is. And there's also a subplot where Gibby and Freddy start a band because they want to hang out with girls. The only joke that I like in the subplot is that during the web show, Sam completely says that Freddy and Gibby are going to start a band. And then when they try to cancel it, Sam just says, and there's no reason they're going to cancel it. That's just pretty much the only funny part I found in the subplot. Other than that, it's just predictable that Freddy and Gibby are just trying to fake that they're starting a band. And when they get to the performance, Gibby just completely punches Freddy in order to have none of this band thing to happen on stage. Look, I understand that Freddy wants to be with someone, but being in the band is just way too difficult. This is why I don't do anything to impress a girl, because if you do something that you're really not good at and have no experience at, then someone like Sam might put you in the predicament that you can't get out of. I'm really got nothing else to say about this except that it's just there just to have comedy, which is very stupid. This episode was terrible. It really has no moral at all, and the moral that we get is just terrible. The subplot is just pointless, and everything's just a gigantic mess in an episode that's in the 7th season from the show. And trust me, the 2 other episodes that have nothing to do with the web show gets even more worse, especially their ideals. Number 4. Another season 7 episode. I lost my head in Vegas. So when Sam's mom completely got into jail because of another stupid incident that she caused, the iCarly gang go to Las Vegas and go to a pawn shop where they meet Chumley to sell their prized possessions. Who is Chumley? Chumley is a very popular star from his popular show Paw Stars, where he just looks at various items and see how much it costs. I really don't know anything about him except that he gets a pause in the season 7th episode because he's very popular on what he does at his job. Here's the problem with season 7. For some reason, they have guest stars in season 7, and they think that they have guest stars in this, it will probably boost ratings, even though it won't work like that, because they're not part of the web show. They really have nothing else to do other than doing their job, and that's it. Almost every episode from season 7 have a guest stars. Like, I can understand Jimmy Fallon. I will review iShark America in the future, but I'm just proving my point that at least he has a purpose in that episode, since it also centers around his TV show. But every other episode just have a celebrity in one of these episodes, which is very disappointing because they're just doing their job and that's it. And that's for the humor, again, predictable, and the running out of ideas. So anyway, let's get back to the plot. Obviously, the iCarly gang are selling their prized possessions in order to get more money to bail Sam's mom out of jail. And then they manage to succeed in the first half of this episode. But guess what? The second half of this episode is just very lazy and just forced. Why? Because Gibby forgot to come with the iCarly gang to go to juvie to bail out Sam's mom. And then when he accidentally bought a fake moonwalk, the guy who has that fake moonwalk completely steals Gibby's money. They're back into a very big predicament when they can't bail Sam's mom out of jail.